Okay, here is the cathode ray tube which I ordered and which is discussed in the ISTA journal article, links below. You can see lots of pictures showing it. This cathode ray tube, not much instructions, few there in Chinese, Japanese, not sure, but it does show the connections, and the connections here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 is the signal from the camera, 2 is the signal ground, 3 is ground, 4 is the 12 volt DC supply, 5, 6 and 7 are a 50k potentiometer, with 6 being the center tap of that. So this 50k potentiometer is needed just to adjust the contrast and brightness. Without it, it doesn't work. You also saw some pictures there of what it might have been used for as a door entrance TV design. Here's another version, very similar, just slightly different packaging. They were also used as sort of Walkman TVs, a Sony version, but across Europe they're used a lot for a TV monitor for a door entrance system. And you can get them for €20, €22. It's well worth looking at, say, some of the comments, because they give you some other information about connections. Here's the one I got, connected up, potentiometer at the bottom, a little circuit board at the top that just has the plug that I can plug in my camera directly into, connected. Okay, so what we have here is a cathode ray tube, old style TV monitor. In this case, this cathode ray tube would have been used, say, for an intercom system connected directly to a camera at a door or something like that, and then you could see from your entrance or flat or whatever who was outside. They were also used for communication, telephone communication, prior to the days of Zoom and things like that, and versions of these were available even back in the 80s, with maybe a photo frame changing every second or something like that for telephone communication. So the only difference between this and a big cathode ray tube is simply that it is angled so that you're sort of looking at the inside of the tube. The white phosphor is you're looking at the back of it, whereas normally you'd be looking at the other side of it, and the electronics has just changed so that you still see a picture the right way around. Everything else is the same. You have your electron gun down here. You have the wires there, the copper yoke, which makes up the magnetic deflection in the X and Y planes so as to form the picture. However, in this one, it's reasonably modern. Computer chip controls most of the deflection and all of that. There's still a big transformer here producing at least approximately kilovolt of potential difference across the anode. So definitely not something to be messed with electrically. But again, it's a handy example of a cathode ray tube, and these are available on eBay and other sites for €15–20. Okay. So with this we can do some experiments as well as just look at its operation. Here I have disconnected the X and Y deflection coils, and you can see we get a spot. You will still need a magnet to show the spot, the direct beam of the electron gun, because there is no phosphor directly in line. The magnet is needed to bring this beam onto the screen. If we disconnect the horizontal or X deflection, we can see that the vertical deflection still works, and we can see a vertical line on the screen, and the camera is still connected in this stage, and I can change the brightness of the image by changing the brightness coming into the camera. So you can see it changing there. So it's been deflected in the Y direction but not in the X. You can take the opportunity to look at what has been fed to the X deflection coil, and that's it there on the oscilloscope. So that's the deflection going to the X. If we now disconnect a different pair of wires, you can see I've disconnected a different pair of wires. So now the deflection, the magnetic field is deflecting in the Y direction only, not the X or vertical plane. And you can see we're getting a straight line. I do need a magnet because once again the electron beam would only hit the top of the screen. I have to pull it down onto the screen because of its position. Screen isn't directly in front. If I reverse the connection to the horizontal deflection magnetic field, I can reverse the image in the picture tube, and things will look back to front. And the writing is in the menu of the camera is the wrong way around. But if I go around to the back of the screen, because it's just the last screen and you can still see the phosphor, I can now see the image the right way around from behind. And this is the way it worked in your old-fashioned TV, in that you were looking at the phosphor screen, which was painted on the inside of the tube you looked at, rather than this version where you're looking down at the phosphor screen from the other side. So that's the way it would have looked in your old TV. This one, it just used sort of a novel design so that you could have a flat screen CRT, and by reversing the connections to the horizontal deflection, I am now getting the writing and so on back to front. The image is reversed. If we take an image of, say, a room with a bright window, the bright window is up on the top here, we can have a look at the signal coming from the camera on the this is a composite video signal, and we can see the signal change. The high portion there is the bright window when I tilt the camera up, and then when that's out of the way, it goes away. So as I'm tilting the camera up, you'll see the image change. The oscilloscope is synchronized to show some of the lines on the top of the image, and when those lines are part of the window, you'll see the bright section representing that. When the window is tilted down, so you have only the dark area, that will disappear. So it's just interesting to be able to look at the analog signal as fed to the CRTs in the olden days. The low signal there, the very low below the zero line, that's a blanking signal as the scan travels back to the other side of the screen before it restarts drawing the image again. So again, this can be used there to have a look at this. Here's the other TV monitor, CRT monitor I got. It's connected here to a Raspberry Pi. It works fine, similar type of connections. And a very small version of this is one that I took out of a video camera, which I picked up in an old shop and for a few euros. And the viewfinders in those cameras had tiny cathode ray tubes, and this one still works. It's a 5-volt tube. It has all the electronics on it. You just need to connect the signal and the 5 volts, and away it goes. It's connected again to the camera. You can see the image in the bottom right. There is stories that people who use professional versions of these all day ended up getting tumours and so on due to the X-rays emitted from cathode rays. Cathode ray tubes have lead added to the glass, so it's a leaded glass to prevent the X-rays from escaping, or at least too many of them anyway. So there's the image on this tiny tube. Colour versions of these tubes were also made, so these were the tiniest cathode ray tubes ever made. So this one works as well, and you can do some of the same deflection experiments that we saw on the other one also. So it's the very same idea. Older TVs, of course, as said, use cathode ray tubes. Here's one, 30 years old or more. This one still works, but there's no signal, and there's no way, or no easy way anyway, of getting a signal into it anymore. When we turn it on, you can see and hear the white noise it generates. The black band there is just a figment due to the scanning rate of the camera. And later when we turn it on, looking at the back at the cathode ray tube itself, the gun, you'll see it heat up as the noise comes on. So the white noise is on, and as the heat builds up, you'll see it travel back the connecting wire. So it gets hot, and you can see the gun in action somewhat there. And again, this TV is old style ordinary electronics, unlike the little ones we got which had chips that controlled everything. This is sort of old electronics, but it's not the old valve style, so it's more 80s 90s style electronics, The valves of the 50s, 60s are gone, so it's just individual components rather than any ICs in here. The only valve thing left in this type of TV, of course, is the electron gun and cathode ray tube itself. So hopefully you can get some of these tubes, try a few experiments with it, and enjoy reminiscing on the good old days of the cathode ray tube.